an idea is just an idea without actions, right? You really need to have some sort of urgency when it comes to what you want to do, whether it's a business plan, whether it's, a personal goal, whatever it is, you got to have urgency. Many people have ideas. I mean, so many ideas go to the grave. And it's crazy. I was working out today and I told myself, I cannot let not one single drop of potential go to the grave. I have to make sure that everything that I can potentially be, I will become. Every idea that I truly feel like it will impact people and better this world, I have to put it out there. I feel like an idea without urgency is nothing but waste.
Imagine having direct access to someone who's navigated life's toughest terrains and come out stronger. Someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you with empathy, experience, and honesty. This isn't just advice. It's a lifeline, a strategy session, a chance to learn from my journey so you can accelerate yours. Without the ability to be self-aware and introspective, the ability for you to get to where you want to go, nearly impossible.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the David Guttman podcast, where I try to talk to CEOs that actually have a good moral compass. And today, I got a really special guest, Cris Munoz. Now, I'm going to give you a background here. And like I was saying before we got on camera, I not sleep for the next 10 years so I can try to catch up to a guy who's only 30, serial entrepreneur, educator, cybersecurity expert, philanthropist, creator of the Wake Up Tour, and CEO of Level Up Enterprises. Did I miss much?
No, you're good on that. Thank you so much, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Really great to have you. And I really wanted to start from your background and really work through kind of what got you to where you are. Maybe talk a little bit about your folks, siblings, and just kind of start there.
Yeah, so I grew up in a single parent home. My mom was definitely the leader of my family. She was the one that motivated me to become who I am today. Shout out to Paulina Gomez. She was the person that really she really instilled that drive in me every single day. And then I also have an older brother called Slater. He was definitely my mentor, the father figure that I didn't have. He was definitely that person for me. And I always felt like it was my duty and my responsibility to become someone as part of my family that I can always bring that knowledge back into them. So I grew up in the Dominican Republic, in Rincon La Vega. It's a very humble neighborhood. And then I came to the U.S. when I was 8 years old. At 8 years old, we came to uptown New York City. So I'm from Washington Heights, Harlem area. A neighborhood that's very interesting, has lots of culture, least privileged for sure, but definitely instills so much character in me. And I definitely feel that I owe it to my neighborhood as to why I'm here today.
So Slater, named after Saved by the Bell? Or?
Actually, yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, by Saved by the Bell. Yeah, AC Slater, that's correct, yes.
I figured, that's not that common of a name. Maybe that's why. So, very successful guy, articulate. I can tell you're clearly an intelligent guy. Were you a good student, growing up?
I was always a great student. I was always hungry for knowledge. I was always the one that wanted to learn more. I told myself as a very young age, I got to be the one to become a learn-it-all, so that I can actually apply these different concepts and acts of knowledge, so then bring it back to my neighborhood. So I was always an A+ student, high school 4.0, college as well 4.0. I just always knew that education was definitely the way to become successful.
Did you have any teachers that really inspired you, saw a spark in you that, to this day you think back on fondly?
Yeah, actually elementary school, when I came to the US, they actually skipped me a grade. So I was always the youngest one. So I was actually 7 when I was in 4th grade. I was 12 when I got to high school, and I was 16 when I got to college.
Wow.
I will definitely say that my baseball coach was the one that always saw that spark in me. Because I always wanted to lead. I always wanted to empower others. I was the one to always be vocal about things. And he told myself, if you keep this going, you're definitely going to become somebody big someday. So yeah.
So now, if you skip a couple of grades, if you graduated at 16, that had to make it harder sports-wise, right?
Honestly, it did. But I was always pretty built, to be honest. Like at 12, 13 years old, I had a pretty good figure. Right. But I'd say that once I got to college, that's where things definitely got a bit harder, because I was 16, but I was competing against 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds that were really, really built compared to me. I think the advantage that I had was that the training that I went through when I was 14, 15, my mom used to take me to the Dominican Republic for the summertime. So I used to play in the baseball academies for the Mets, for the Yankees, and I would undergo those tough trainings. So I always trained super, super tough just because I knew that I was at a disadvantage because of my age.
So same thing, that when you're back in the DR, did you have coaches there that like really inspired you, again, saw that kind of spark in you that really drove you?
Yeah. And at a very young age, I was always a great hitter. They saw the talent in me. I could throw pretty hard. And aside from that, it was really the leadership. Any place that I got to, whether it was the baseball field, whether it was school, I always tried to be a leader and really spark into other people and speak life into others. And they saw that as a gift. And I feel like that's a gift that I have today that has led me to build different companies and things like that.
So if you had to pick one person who is the biggest influence of yours, besides your mom, that really sort of helped maybe see the path towards entrepreneurship that you ended up pursuing, was there one?
I'll say Coach Tiny, my baseball coach for sure. I didn't have the means to pay, or my mom didn't have the means to pay for one-on-one coaching.
Right.
So what I would do is that I would wake up early in the morning and I would walk from 160th in Washington Heights all the way to Central Park. So that's about 4 to 5 miles because I didn't have the money to pay for the train. And I would ask every single coach, hey, listen, can I field for you? I do anything for you. I'll field for you. I'll pick up balls, whatever you need. I'll clean the mitts, whatever you need me to do. But as long as I get the opportunity to play. And he was the only coach that gave me an opportunity. And
what the other coaches say? Tough shit.
Oh yeah, tough stuff. Yeah, they don't want you to be there because again, you're not paying for the baseball program or anything like that. He was the only one that really gave me the opportunity to be part of the team. And he told me, you know what? If you have good grades, bring your grades tomorrow. And if you have good grades, you can come every single day. I brought my grades the following day, 4.0. He saw that, and I stuck around. And because of him, I got the opportunity to get some baseball offers from Michigan State, from different colleges, and I also got a baseball offer from the LA Dodgers as well. So,
wow,
yeah, definitely got to say that I definitely owe it to him for that.
Do you know who Thomas Sowell is?
Of course.
So, do you know that he tried out for the Brooklyn Dodgers?
Yeah.
When I heard that part of his story, I was like, no way.
Yes,
yes. Unbelievable. Wow. Yeah. So you got that in common with him. That's so funny. So you still in touch with that coach?
100%.
Yeah.
I see him as a father figure. I see him as somebody that really motivated and spoke life into me. Growing up, I was faced by many different challenges. I went to a high school that it was in a very rough neighborhood. And the way that it works in New York City, especially in those different neighborhoods, is that different gangs dominate different blocks and different territories. So I'm from Washington Heights. I'm going to a school in Harlem, and I almost joined a gang, to be very, very honest, to protect myself and protect my brother and protect my cousins. And he was the one that spoke life into me and told me, listen, there's a different path in life, and you're going to be different, right? And honestly, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today because I for sure would have joined that gang, and that would have led me to a whole different path.
So how'd you stay safe if you didn't join the gang?
Well, that's that's a great question. So let me picture you.
Sure.
Well, let me paint the picture as to how it was going to school in New York City. Aside from focusing on the sports and trying to get an offer and get a full ride scholarship and everything like that, and focus when it comes to the studies, you also got to focus on how do you get safe? How do you get home safe after school? So if we were all together and you had detention, we all had detention. Why? Because we all have to leave home as a pack in case one of us gets jumped. It's so bad that at the age of 14, 15, and that's why I tell you, like, I was always the leader, that I would plan out, like, listen, if we were to get jumped, we have to separate and we will meet up here, right?
Wow.
Like, that's the type of upbringing that I had in New York City. So the only way for you to really stay safe is to have a clique, to have a group of friends that you guys stick together and you guys just fight, and just—
like an army general.
Honestly, yeah, and try to make it home every single day. My mom at an early age, she taught us to say your prayer when you get out the house, because in neighborhoods like that, you do not know if you're actually going to make it back.
What was that like psychologically?
Oh, yeah.
Psychologically, I want to know what that was like for you. Like, I gotta believe it probably serves you well, really, really well today, because I gotta believe it makes you pretty damn resilient, right?
Yeah.
What was that like psychologically for you?
Very traumatic, for sure. Very traumatic. It's to the point that now when I go back home to New York City and it's very hot, I correlate the heat to the violence that there may be outside.
Right.
Because in New York City, once the temperature goes up, everyone's outside. right? And the more people outside, the more danger, the more violence. So definitely traumatic for sure. Even when I went to Michigan State University, I didn't even party like that because I saw so many athletes in high school, top athletes, D1 recruits and stuff. And they went to parties and they got shot, they got stabbed, and they never, fully realized their dream. And I always had that fear of putting in so much work. And just because I wanted to party one single night, I'm going to go ahead and just let my dream go away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it kept you on the straight and narrow for sure.
Indeed.
Well, so you clearly had this one mentor that changed your life.
Yeah.
Maybe tell me how you view mentorship now, and do you have people as you've progressed in your career and professionally, and even as a philanthropist, which we'll get to also, do you have people that are mentors to you now?
Yeah. And I would say that you need mentors. And I see you as a mentor, by the way. I definitely want to say this, and I definitely want to give you your flowers. A lot of people see you as a mentor. We all value who you are and the positive frequency that you instill into every single person. And again, thanks again for allowing me to be part of your home that day. And seeing just how your team sees you, that is something that I think is evident to everyone. So I see you as a mentor as well. And I think that you need mentors. You need someone to guide you. You need someone to hold you accountable for things. You need someone to tell you, hey, listen, that wasn't done the right way. You should do it this way, or you should reconsider things, right? I feel like we live in a world where everybody wants to be the mentor. Nobody wants to be the mentee, right?
It's so funny you say that, because I have been seeking mentorship my entire life, mostly unsuccessfly. And so it's funny you say, and I think it's different too, just because, I'm almost twice your age, 2 years shy, year and a half shy.
Okay.
But yeah, it was so much harder. Like, there was no LinkedIn, there was no Instagram, there was no, DMing people, you met people physically or you didn't meet them,
Right.
Where I was joking with someone about people talking about dating apps and stuff like that. But and I don't even know if you even know this, but the way people used to sometimes date is you'd place almost like a wanted ad in the newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah. Like literally, like,
Right.
and you had to use all these acronyms like, SWF, single white female, Sikhs, single white male. Like, it was crazy.
Right.
And that was like how stuff, anyway, it's like so old school. Like, again, before cell phones, before the internet.
Right.
I'll talk to my daughter and she'd be like, how did anything get done? I'm like, I don't know. We figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe talk a little bit about then, are there people that you actively mentor also? I know there must be through some of your philanthropy stuff too, and the Wake Up Tour, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I have mentors worldwide. I mentor so many different people on so many different various topics. Like, for example, the financial markets. When it comes to trading, I have a community of 3,000 people that I mentor every single day. I give classes, and then I have folks that are a lot younger, 16, 17, 18-year-olds from my neighborhood that want to make it out. They want to become better. They want to become leaders. And that's where I spend a lot of time speaking at high schools, at middle schools, to really plant a seed in those young minds, because they need it, because they don't have any positivity around them. So I say right now, just mentees or people that I mentor, I have easily one-on-one, easily 15, 16. And honestly, It takes a lot of time. But to me, I feel like that's my purpose. My purpose was to become someone, to learn, to apply the knowledge, to now bring it back so that I can help others become leaders as well.
One of the things I found, and I'm curious about your experience about it too, is I find that I get at least as much from mentoring other people as they get from me, and probably more.
Yeah.
Because what I find is, in order to try to, because sometimes you'll know what the right thing to do is, but it's kind of pattern matching. Like, you've seen it before and you don't necessarily know why you know that's the right decision. You just know that it is. But when you have to explain it to someone, you got to give them the why behind it, which requires you to think about it in a deeper way than you might normally. Is that your experience?
Yeah. And I feel like when I'm speaking to them, I'm also speaking to myself. Right. And that's where that deeper perspective really comes from. I also feel like when I have those profound conversations of things that I went through or how I overcame things, I'm also able to appreciate the process a little bit more.
Right.
And all the things that I've been through and all the things that I've been able to achieve. Right. So yeah, I feel like the last 2 to 3 years, because of me mentoring others and helping others, I feel like I've grown so much, and I've been able to really savor every single moment of life. not just trading, not just making money, but even just family moments, right? There's nothing like family, in my opinion. Like, family is absolutely everything, right? I just had a son. My biggest achievement till this date is my son, Giovanni Munoz. And I strive to become the best role model in my life for him, right? So now me being able to just feed into others and speak life into others, it's the same way that I'm going to do for him every single day.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I have just a 24-year-old daughter.
Nice.
Boy, you want to talk about reframing things?
Yeah.
A kid will do that for sure.
Indeed.
Yeah. Tying mentorship. That's that kid looking up at you, needing guidance. There's nothing more impactful than that.
Indeed.
Well, so talk a little bit about kind of your career progression. And if I remember from hearing your story a little bit before, started early on at Microsoft, I think it was, and then maybe talk a little bit about the progression and kind of, because so you went from working in a big bureaucratic corporation to eventually kind of becoming a serial entrepreneur. Maybe talk about what you liked and didn't like about the corporate world, and then kind of like what drove you to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I always knew that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, because I would always think about things that I can sell, products that I can create. Back then, when iPhones used to break for absolutely everything, I wanted to be, to create my own iPhone repair shop and stuff like that. So I always had that entrepreneurial just spirit in me. But I told myself, for me to become world-class, I have to get world-class experience. And I have no problem with saying I worked the 9 to 5, I had a career. We live in a world now where nobody wants to say that.
Right.
Everybody wants to say, I'm a serial entrepreneur. But I just feel like you have to really undergo that process and get that real experience of business to become a really good entrepreneur. There's lots of entrepreneurs that are out there that do not understand business, that do not understand systems and processes and SOPs and things of that nature. So I got to Microsoft at the age of 20, and that's the year that I actually retired my mom. So my mom hasn't worked not one single day ever since. So that's another achievement of mine that I'm very, very proud of saying. And when I got to Microsoft, I was a consultant, cybersecurity consultant. So I was traveling the entire world, Guatemala, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago. I was working with the largest companies. And what I truly loved about Microsoft is that it allowed me to get real world experience, where I got to present in boardrooms where CVPs, CEOs were there, right? At the age of 21. I got to travel the world and see different cultures, something else that I definitely appreciated. And all I was doing at Microsoft was just soaking up as much knowledge as I can to really understand the different departments at Microsoft, so that now, the second I want to create my own empire, I know exactly how to structure things, right? One of the things that I definitely see nowadays is that people think that entrepreneurship is a game. And I feel like we lack professionalism in entrepreneurship. Right. And I feel like the reason why we lack that is because people haven't really gotten that real world-class experience of a corporation like Microsoft or anything else like that. But I just feel like the most that I got out of Microsoft was the professionalism, the systems, the processes, how to present, how to create an offer, how to win deals, how to build teams, how to be a leader, how to be vocal. At the age of 21, I had to be vocal against folks that were there for 25 years. So imagine the competition at Microsoft when I'm just getting out of college and I'm learning things, but now a company got hacked and now I have to fly out to Guatemala and help that government out, right? So it was lots of competition, but it just showed me that if you want to become the domain expert when it comes to your field, you got to dig deep. You have to put in the hours, you have to sacrifice. And I sacrificed so much time away from my family. That's the only thing that I did not like about Microsoft, was that I was traveling so much every single week. I lived out of a hotel, honestly, to be honest. And if I look at my Marriott Vonvoy app, I've stayed at a hotel over 774 days. Wow. So that's a lot of time that I'm away from my family, my mom, and my loved ones, right? But I always knew that there was a big, big gap when it comes to our community, and that's financial literacy. No one knows about the credit system. No one knows about how the banking system actually works. No one invests their money. Where I come from, someone gets a paycheck, they're going to buy some designer clothing instead of putting that money to work for them, right? Mm-hmm. And I told myself that's a big gap that I really want to satisfy. How can I create a company or a set of companies where I'm able to educate people when it comes to the credit system, when it comes to the banking system, when it comes to how to trade, when it comes to how to build long-term generational wealth, because I never came from that. And actually a big mistake, not mistake, but big learning that I had in Microsoft was that because I didn't have the knowledge of stock investing, every company gives you the employee stock program where they give, they take out 10-15% out of your paycheck and they put it as part of the shares. Well, going into Microsoft at 20, all I wanted to do was just retire my mom. So I missed out 2 years of investing into Microsoft at $54.
Right.
Microsoft is at $442 as of late, and they just beat earnings today, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. So just that right there told me there's a gap. If this is me that I'm making this mistake and I've gotten so far, I can't imagine the folks that are still back home.
Right.
And that's where I started with Level Up Enterprises. So Level Up Enterprises started off as a community, very small community called One Day at a Time. And the whole scope there was to really motivate people to start investing, just buying fractional shares, getting some trades here and there when it comes to options. And out of that, in the first 2 years, we created 20 six-figure traders. And now we're up to 3,000 members as part of the community. And instead of it being a community, we actually built an ecosystem of companies around Level Up Enterprises.
Okay.
So we have Level Up Academy, where we teach people how to trade, how to invest, credit, banking system, entrepreneurship, business funding, things of that nature. I then scaled and I created a software company called Level Up Algo. And coming from Microsoft, which is a software company, every piece of knowledge that I got from Microsoft, I put it into that company. And that was the first company that went to 7 figures. And we got to 7 figures in less than 7 months.
Wow.
Because of what I learned at Microsoft, right? Having an engineering team overseas. Mm-hmm. So right now I have an engineering team in India and also in the Philippines, having a marketing team out of Peru, and really working and operating as a world-class enterprise. And the whole scope behind Level Up Algo, it is a proprietary algorithm that basically recommends to you when to buy and sell.
Okay.
Where to put your stop loss, your take profits, everything like that. So at the end of the day, for those traders that do not know technical analysis, it serves as a guide to get into better informed trades, if you will. And that was the first company. Then we did a trucking company called Level Up Transports, and you see how we were able to grow from there. So yeah.
Well, so how big is what's the headcount in all of your companies? If you look at full-time, equivalent, so employees, contractors, kind of ballpark.
I'll say about 50.
50.
50 right now.
And so maybe talk a little bit about kind of what you think the most effective leadership and management style is, what your style is, and maybe what you look for in the people that are the leaders within your organization.
Yeah. I tell people, you don't work for me, you work with me, right? I want people to be very, very, very comfortable when it comes to working at Level Up. I think above everything, when it comes to being a leader and the folks that are part of your team, you want people that are really passionate. You don't want the folks that are just coasting by and just, collecting a check. You want people that are actually passionate and they truly believe in the vision. And that's the main thing there. Aside from that, I truly feel I'm very, very flexible when it comes to my staff and my team members. It's to the point now that my staff overseas, they're like family now. I send them gifts all the time for the holidays. One of them right now, Chetan, shout out to Chetan. He's having a beautiful daughter. I'm sending him a gift for that too. So it's more family oriented than anything else. We're a pack. We're going to go through hardships along the way. But if we stick together and if we believe in the vision and the core values of integrity and transparency, because that's the main thing when it comes to how I operate. Again, the financial markets is tough.
Yeah.
Trading is tough. People sell courses. People do many different things. You hear a lot of scandalous things going around. My main thing is having integrity and transparency when it comes to our clients. We got to protect our clients. We could take the loss. That's no problem. But we have to serve. And I've always told myself, I want to become a public servant. And I want to be able to rectify and solve really difficult challenges for a good amount of people. And that's going to make sure that I can help them out as well.
Talk a little bit about, because I think it's connected to building world-class teams, trying to build a world-class organization. Tell me how you think about two sides of the coin, ego and humility. To be an entrepreneur, you got to have an ego, but how do you do it in a way that your ego is a tool and it doesn't control you?
Well, you have to have an ego, but I would also say it's you against yourself. It's you against yourself. I feel like a lot of people have an ego, but they use it the wrong way, right? I have an ego when it comes to myself. I don't have an ego to compete with other people or put other people down. A lot of people want to amass the wealth to put others down. We live in a system where people want to go ahead and get a Urus because they want to put others down, right? So I feel like if you use your ego against yourself to become better, and how can you become better this 2025 and do a lot of self-reflection and really look into myself? That's how I can win, right? And actually the saying that I've been saying for the last 2024 is you have to kill the ego. Right. I feel like you have to surrender. A lot of people feel like they're perfect. None of us are perfect. We all have to develop some way, somehow. And we have to undergo a process and submit to a process of self-development and growth, in my opinion.
So what about humility? And, is humility something, you seem like a very humble guy to me, especially for someone as, successful at your young age as you are. But how do you remain humble, and how do you think about how important is humility in the people that you have on your team?
Oh yeah, it's very important. I think it's such a core value. I often meet entrepreneurs that they're not humble at all, and I'm just like, you have a poor heart, a poor soul. I feel like people that do not embrace humility, inside is very dark, right? Again, I come from a very, very, very poor neighborhood in the Dominican Republic. There's no way that I could walk around with a chip in my shoulder. No way. No way. I think on the other hand, what I can do for people is to speak life into people, empower people, inspire others, because that's what the world needs. Right now, we live in a world that if you look at TikTok, social media, Twitter, Instagram, it's all about, I'm better than you.
Right.
I made X amount of money, I'm better than you. I got this house, I'm better than you. No, it shouldn't be like that. It should be, how can I help you become better? How can we work together as a pack so that we help each other and we become better human beings? Forget about the money and everything like that. How can we become better individuals at the end of the day? So I always ground myself. Always ground myself. I love going back home. I love going to the Dominican Republic. And I feel like humility is in everything. There's no way that I can have somebody in my team not embrace humility. You have to be humble. You have to know that we serve a God and we are here to be public servants and help others at the end of the day.
So are there people, in your sort of inner circle, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's, your old baseball coach, maybe it's other people that have mentored you, who are the people that keep you humble? Or is it just something that, like you said, it's just from your humble beginnings? It's just how you're wired.
That's how I'm wired. It's something in me, not on me, something in me for sure. And my mom, my mom all the time, we help out so many different people, and thank the Lord now we've gotten to a point where, we are in position to help others. And my mom, my coach, my brother, these are folks that keep me grounded. But at the end of the day, I'm grounded myself because I understand what life is. Life is tough. You don't know what that other person's going through. And it's not our right to put other people down or laugh at them because of what they're going through. And that's why I feel like we need more, how do I say it? We need more tenderness with people. We need to be able to make sure that we don't frown upon those that are going through things. That at the end of the day, everybody has the opportunity and everybody has the magic in them to become great. The problem is that we have a system that reminds you every single day that you can't. Right. So with that humility, what I can do is that I can walk into rooms and I can be a beacon of light in a world that can be so dark at times.
It's I definitely came to it later than you did, but I couldn't agree with you more. Let's talk a little bit about ideas versus execution.
Oof.
So, everyone's, people are always worried. It's so funny to me. People are, almost every business I've ever been in, there have been a significant percentage of the executive team that's always really almost terrified of competition. I never worry about competition because to me, if you continue to innovate, that they're catching up to where you were yesterday. And I'll take a mediocre idea, well executed, over an exceptional idea, executed mediocre any day. And how do you think about that? And maybe how do you communicate that and sort of infuse that in your team?
Yeah. So what I try to say is that I try to solve really hard problems. I feel like if you become obsessive of solving hard problems that many people are having, you will become successful at whatever you're doing. An idea is just an idea without actions, right? You really need to have some sort of urgency when it comes to what you want to do, whether it's a business plan, whether it's, a personal goal, whatever it is, you got to have urgency. Many people have ideas. I mean, so many ideas go to the grave. And it's crazy. I was working out today and I told myself, I cannot let not one single drop of potential go to the grave. I have to make sure that everything that I can potentially be, I will become.
Right.
Every idea that I truly feel like it will impact people and better this world, I have to put it out there. Think about how so many people want to create content.
Right.
But they don't do it. Why? Because they're scared of maybe how they will look in camera, how they will sound. All the excuses in the world pop up. but you know exactly who you can become and what you can do and what that content can do for others, right? So I feel like an idea without urgency is nothing but waste, right?
So I'm a huge fan of David Goggins.
Me too.
Though
Yeah, DG.
I don't know that I want to live quite that intensely. That might be a level of, hey, let me do an ultra marathon without training. I don't know if I want to sign up for that. But I remember him saying something about his faith, and he was talking about that, when he meets his maker, he doesn't want to have God say, this is who you could have been, and to have that be, distant from what he ended up being. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing. And it's funny because I think people that don't know me, that know me but don't know me that well, mistakenly think that I'm super competitive. I'm actually playfully competitive with others.
Yeah.
But the only person I'm like psychotically competitive with is myself.
100%.
Because I know what I'm capable of. And it's like, you can maybe fool everybody else, but the person you can't really fool is yourself.
Right, 100%. You can't. And it's about the accountability mirror. I tell myself all the time, when you look at yourself in the mirror, I work so hard every day so that when I look at myself in the mirror, I respect the person that I'm looking at.
Right.
Right. I don't want to have no sort of sign of regret or doubt of what could have happened if I would have stayed militant to the goal or the process. And those are things that I truly feel like a lot of people have to really instill into 2025. I'm sure lots of folks 2024, they probably sit down December 31st and we're like, wow, I could have done a lot more.
Right.
Right. A lot of people probably think, and it's crazy. I put this in my Instagram story, and I told I surrender. Like this year, I'm surrendering. Like I am going to love at 100%. I'm going to grow at 100%. I'm going to serve at 100%. I'm going to collaborate at 100%. I'm going to inspire at 100%. I'm going to empower at 100%. Everything that I'm going to give it my utmost that I can, because I know that that's the higher self, right? And I feel like the more that you delay becoming your higher self and that person, that vision you see in your head that you can become that person, you will remain a slave to that idea.
Really well said. Let me ask you something, because I'm hearing in what you're saying, maybe indirectly, is I don't know if you watch a lot of TED Talks, but my all-time favorite TED Talk is by this woman, Brene Brown, and it's basically about vulnerability. Yeah. And because most people, I think, view vulnerability as a weakness. And she talks about it in the way that I think about it is, which is like it's a superpower, because
100%.
you can't have authenticity without vulnerability, and you can't have true human connection without authenticity. Right. So, maybe talk a little bit about how you view vulnerability and how you look at it, not just in yourself, but in those people that you have connection with.
Yeah, I feel like vulnerability is as you said, a superpower. I think is the key to life. Again, most people think that they're perfect. There's a lot of people that are out there that have yet to have that declaration and conversation with themselves as to, I'm currently here. I want to be up here. I can become this person. There's a big gap there. But within that big gap, there's a lot of vulnerabilities. And I would say I've had vulnerabilities in my own personal relationships. And until the day that I did not realize them and admitted that this was a problem of vulnerability, there's no way that I could have grown. Right. So I think vulnerability is your compass when it comes to life. It is your guide when it comes to life. It shows you exactly what you need to work on so that you can become that better person. And I've used that across my teams. A couple of years ago, I told myself I have to be more vocal. If I want to become a leader and I want to lead people and I want people to become better, I have to be more vocal. And that was definitely one thing. Right. So I feel like it's a key to life, but very few people want to have that conversation, because it's a tough conversation. It could be very, very tough for you to tell yourself, well, I'm this way. I have to work on this. I can work on this. Most people never want to work on it, because most people, again, going back to the ego, most people have that ego that it's a shield that's protecting that fake version of who they are, instead of going through that and actually becoming who they truly are.
I have a theory about that. I think that that flavor or that version of ego comes from insecurity.
Yeah.
So you think about, and I talked about this once on another podcast, where think about how most people date. Okay, when most people go on a date, because most people I don't think love themselves. So their dating strategies, I'm gonna I'm going to obfuscate who I really am
Yep.
for as long as humanly possible. I'm going to project what I think they're looking for.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then get them to fall in love with the person I'm not. And then guess how that's going to turn out.
Right.
Right. And by the way, that other person is probably doing the same thing in reverse.
Yeah.
And my whole dating strategy was exactly the opposite, which is I'm thinking, if you put 100 women in a room, okay, there's probably 15 I'd be interested in just physically. And then if I spend time with 15, I probably get it down to 3 that I might even think about. And then I flip it and say, a room of 100 men, it's probably the same. Maybe 3% are going to be interested in me, right? So now what's the overlap of that? So that tells me that the vast majority of people aren't going to be right. And so I figure the faster I figure that out, the better, as opposed to wasting a whole bunch of time for them and me being something I'm not. Never made any sense to me. But I feel like people are that way, not just in dating, but in life in general.
Everything. Yeah.
And social media has made it worse.
Oh, I was going to say, social media I feel like social media is something that people should take lightly. If you look at social media, everybody's rich. Nobody has bills. Nobody gets depressed. Nobody gets sad. Nobody has family problems. No one has problems, which is the total opposite. We all have problems in various different aspects of our life, right? And as you said, most people, they don't really love themselves. Why? Because they don't know who they truly are. Most people are trying to satisfy societal standards of what society wants them to be, right? Until you peel that onion and you really get to the inner core of who you truly are, there's no way you can be successful. I feel like until the day that you declare who you truly are and you are in solitude, which is very important for us to be in solitude and reflect and journal and go through all these different things every single day, there's no way that you're going to become that higher self or you're going to, give people the magic of who you truly are. And that's most people. Why? Because most people are chasing around how celebrities are. Mm-hmm. Those celebrities don't love themselves either. Right. Those celebrities, most of them are just playing an act for the system, the circus. Right? Instead of really tapping into who they truly are and the impact that they can make. If people were to love themselves and truly practice self-love, we wouldn't live in the dark system that we live in today.
You know, it's funny. I kind of oscillate back and forth between thinking that the world is a place full of light. And sometimes I think the world is a place full of darkness. And I don't know, like most things, the truth's probably somewhere in the middle. Yeah. But I feel like the path I'm taking is there's both, obviously, light and dark. And the sooner I can, identify that something's dark and just sort of cast it aside and not have that be part of my life and have basically my life be the things where there's lightness. One of the other insights I've had recently is that when you really think about it, something like, I don't know, it maybe is 100%, but it's certainly at least north of 90% of all the problems anyone can have can be solved by being honest with yourself. And when I ask myself, why aren't people honest with themselves? I don't have a clean answer. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but why do you think people aren't honest with themselves? Because to me, it's like if you're not honest with yourself, you're guaranteed to get a bad outcome.
Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow. I just feel like it's a hard pill to swallow. People don't want to have that confrontational conversation with themselves. It takes a lot for a person to really grow and be 100% with themselves. How can you be 100% with others if you're not true to yourself?
Right.
How can you love others if you don't love yourself? How can you impact other people if you don't even impact your own life? Right? So I feel like most people never want to have that declaration. And you have, in order for you to elevate and become that next person, that next version of yourself, first of all, you have to kill the old version of yourself. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot of work, a lot of internal work and shadow work. All of us have some sort of trauma.
So how old were you when you killed that shadow self?
I would say I'm still working on it today. It's a process, to be honest. Yeah. I would tell you, I'm not the person that I was in 2024. In 2024, I wasn't.
Dude, we're only a few weeks in.
Right, a few weeks in. Yeah, literally. But it's been so much work day in, day out that I really look at myself and I know that I am enough. Just me knowing that I am enough. Forget about the success, the cars, the money, the career, and everything like that. Just me, myself, without those external things. I know that I am enough. I know that I am worthy. I know that I deserve things. I know that I am a leader. I know who I truly am. Just me knowing that, there's nothing in this world that I can't overcome.
Dude, I feel like I just re-listened to my Brené Brown TED Talk. We got to get you on a TED Talk, man. Let's talk a little bit about kind of persuasion, storytelling, sales. How important are things like persuasion and storytelling in leading an organization and I guess being a leader in life?
Yeah, it's very, very important. You know, first, when it comes to business, it all depends on what you're focusing on. Like for example, I'll tell you one of my biggest projects that I'm really trying to satisfy this year. If you look at trading and if you look at the way that people invest, if you're not in Wall Street or you're a market maker or you're a capital management firm, you don't have the resources to really make a lot of money. I think about I hate to say ordinary, but the ordinary person that works a 9-to-5 a career and they want to expand their money. What are the different vehicles that they can actually invest into that can give them passive income? So now that I've gotten into quantitative trading and algorithmic trading, I'm trying to build a bot with futures where someone can go ahead and deploy money, $1,000, $2,000, and it will make them money over time, right? Every single month, probably aim for 10%, 10 to 15%, which is a lot more than what these hedge funds are going to give you, right? BlackRock gives you 8%, depending on what you invest into them. And what's the storytelling there? The storytelling there is freedom. Freedom, that you're making your money work for you, right? So when it comes to building any business, I always obsess over the solution and the problem that there is there. And the more people that you're able to rectify a problem, a big problem, the more money that you're able to make. So storytelling is critical, not just when it comes to trading, but any product, whether it's e-commerce, whether you're selling real estate, whatever it is. What is the challenge? What's the frustration? What is the big problem that you're solving for others? And I use that in every single offer, right? And that alleviates the team to really understand the impact that they're making on others. And I truly believe that project right there can help out lots of families that are currently struggling to invest money and also expand their money. So I think storytelling is critical when it comes to everything.
I just finished reading Walter Isaacson's autobiographies on Elon Musk and Steve Jobs. And the way I read them is I read a couple chapters of one, then I go a couple chapters,
That's
and
good.
went back and forth. And the thing that's interesting is, one, Steve Jobs' business acumen, his first time at Apple, not when he came back, was horrendous. Like his business decision making was about as bad as it could be. But it's saying the thing he was absolutely amazing at was storytelling.
Yeah.
And getting everyone to push in the same direction. He didn't have the engineering background. You know, Elon Musk is actually solving problems himself and he's in the weeds solving those problems. Steve Jobs wasn't. He had like a Joni Ives and other people that were actually the ones that were moving the products forward.
Right.
And so I thought it was interesting that you could basically build $1 trillion company being a storyteller.
Yeah.
But one that knows how to sort of find and motivate talent. Talk a little bit about how you find and motivate talent.
Great question. So how do I motivate talent? First of all, I feel like every single person, there's always room for improvement. So one of the things that we do at Level Up, we actually provide a stipend of $10,000 per staff member. So they can get certifications, they can take a course, they can go to conferences and things like that. Like for example, when it comes to trading, we send a couple of folks to the FX Expo, and that allowed people to really get more of a circle when it comes to networking and things like that. So that's one way. But I think that for you to motivate, people have to really believe and have faith in what you're doing. So I'm going to correlate storytelling and just the motivation aspect. If I'm trying to sell a product or sell a service, the way that I tell the story of how we're going to solve the problem, over time, depending on how well that's articulated, is going to get believers in the room, right? Those believers that come into the room, whether it's a staff, whether it's clients, let's say, for example, right now it's going to be staff. Though that staff member, the way that I motivate them is that I make sure that there's some sort of incentive behind everything, right? Most people is money. Most people is a bonus. Most people is a commission, right? But I try people to first focus on the skill set of them really becoming an expert when it comes to that skill, whether you're selling, whether you're taking sales calls, whether you're trading capital for people. And then based off of that, you're going to have the accolades and the experience to actually then from there actually make the money. So that's one way. Something else is my engineers over time, they become my partners and they actually have equity when it comes to the company. And I'm a big believer that everybody eats. Everybody should be able to make money. Everybody should be able to get a leadership role in the company if they do perform and they do believe in the vision and they're doing good for other people. Like, for example, one of my engineers right now, He just got a job from Citadel, and he used to create bots from us. Now he's getting a $500K a year job all the way from India. That's going to transform his entire family,
Sure.
paradigm, right? So things like that is what I try to build when it comes to my different businesses, if you will.
What are the characteristics? So I think we've covered some of the characteristics you're looking for, when you're looking for someone, humility, work ethic, all that kind of good stuff. What about on the other side? What are the things when you see a characteristic in someone, you're like, all right, that's not going to work for my team. Like that person can't be on my team. What are the things that, cause you to decide hey, we gotta cut ties?
You have to be coachable. If you're not coachable, there's just no way you can be part of the team, right? You have to.
It goes back to humility a little bit, right?
It definitely goes back to that. Coachable, have an ego to learn, have some sort of hunger for success, hunger for impact. I think impact to me is very, very important. Actually solving the problem for the client, making sure that we create world-class products. I hate mediocre work.
Right.
I hate when work is half-assed because we're only going to get half-assed results.
Yeah.
I'm very picky even with the flyers that come out. I'm very picky. I actually used to be an intern at GE, General Electric. I did web design there and graphic design. So that's where I have an eye for things, right?
Yeah.
So mediocre work, there's no way that I can accept that. And I like people that go above and beyond, people that actually want to dig deeper. So if you don't have those traits, there's no way that you can create world-class products, in my opinion. And then on top of that, I would say you have to be able to work with other people, right? And you have to be able to take criticism. I think criticism is so good. Having someone that can give you constructive feedback is only going to make you better. And if you can't take that, there's no way you can be part of the team.
It's actually funny you say that. I think it's one of the biggest shortcomings of almost, I would say I bet it's at least 80% of managers, their biggest shortcoming is their inability to give constructive criticism because they're afraid they only want to give them, oh, you're doing great. That's of no use.
Oh, no use at all.
You know what I'm saying? Like really, it's like, I remember my daughter was telling me, she's in this job and she's like, please, for the love of God, give me some criticism. No, I think you're doing wonderful. She's like, no, please.
Yeah. How do I get better?
Right. How am I going to get better?
How do I get better? And I feel like if you look at athletes like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, these guys are obsessive. And most people talk about discipline. Discipline is amazing. You can have discipline all you want, but just obsession is going to get you a lot further. And I feel like that's one of the things that I'm very obsessive about, creating great things. And I feel like if you don't have that, there's no way that you can serve people because you're not really looking for improvement when it comes to what you're doing. Like, for example, Level Up Algo, we now just changed the whole company to now be Level Up Quant View. It used to be focused on retail trading strategies. Now this focuses on institutional trading concepts. So how do we get better? How do we make sure that we're serving people? They're getting value at the end of the day. They paid us. They trust us, right? They support us. How do we give them the utmost value so that they become the best traders in the world and they make money for them and theirs?
One of the things I've seen, and I've actually had a couple of friends recently that made, one guy made like mid 8 figures, one guy low 9 figures on their exits from businesses. And in both cases, well, not actually. So in both cases, the wheels fell off.
Wow.
Because, I think that for a lot of people, it was one of the reasons why I felt like it was so sad that Kobe Bryant died in that accident, because he was one of those guys that was going to make that transition from, because I think a lot of people, because your identity since you're a kid is, hey, I'm this amazing athlete.
Right.
And all of a sudden you have to let that identity go because you retire, right? And a lot of guys can't make that transition. He was clearly going to make that transition well. Yeah. No doubt about it. He was going to he was going to kill it as a businessman. There was no doubt about it. And so it's interesting that you've got this thing that's driving you, and then you get to the finish line. I think the stat I heard is something like 50% of Olympic gold medalists seriously consider suicide within 6 months of winning their gold medal. And it's because, hey, I'm Michael Phelps. I've been in a swimming pool since I was 5, 7 days a week for 20 years or whatever it is. And now, okay, I got a ton of medals. Now what do I do? And so now all of a sudden it's like, I got nothing. So I got all this drive and ambition that I've used for decades. I think people that are driving towards a business exit have that same problem sometimes. How do you think about money as a magnifier, both in the good and the bad?
That's a really good question. I mean, money, you can solve a lot of problems. You can help a lot of people. money, you can become obsessive and become very greedy when it comes to money. And then you won't be able to actually enjoy your achievements. But then I would say, even after you have a business exit, I just feel like we have a lot of other problems that we can also solve, right? If you're a great CEO, if you're a great leader, why not work on creating more leaders and more CEOs, right? So I feel like there's always a group, back to mentorship. I feel like mentorship if you exit any industry, I feel like mentorship should be the main thing. It should be to propagate that information, propagate that experience, focus on philanthropy, give back to the community, donate, create programs, create nonprofits. That's the only way to go from there. And then, of course, from there, I mean, if you have different passions, you can also go ahead and engage in that as well. But I just feel like there's always a room for mentorship. And Kobe was already doing that.
Yeah.
Right? After he retired, he went right into coaching his daughter.
Yeah.
Being part of his daughter's team and flying out with them everywhere,
right,
to make sure that his presence, his experience is now inherited by other people.
Imagine having Kobe as your coach.
Oh, wow. That's insane. That's insanity. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to get into service to others. We'll come back to that. But talk about kind of data-driven decision-making.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that surprises me that people, because I think you can make them, but you can have analysis paralysis and be looking for complete data to make a decision, and that's a huge mistake. Right. And you can also make decisions without looking at any data, and that's a mistake. How do you find that sweet spot? How do you figure out make smart data-driven decisions, but do it in a way, how do you know what the right point is there?
Yeah, so I think having metrics is really, really important when it comes to any business. I'll say from a sales standpoint, for example, when we first launched Level Up Augo, when we went from 0 to 7 figures, the main thing that we did was that we really focused on the data. We focused on who's buying from us, from where, what's the age group, and that directly impacted our marketing and our systems. So I feel like it's really, really critical, but I also feel like you also have to stay creative as well. So I think that data is very, very important. It should be the core of your decision-making, but I feel like the creativity when it comes to your business should be way more profound.
Right.
Just because how do you continue to innovate? The data is going to keep on coming, but that data
right.
can be repetitive and can have a pattern over time.
Right.
How do you make sure that you now get more new data as part of the learning models? And like, for example, one of the things that we do when it comes to the bots, we use quantitative data. We look 10, 20 years, in the past to see whether or not we see any patterns when it comes to the strategy. So we teach our engineers when we're creating quantitative models, so go back in time, but we're not going to just rely on that. We're also going to see and look at the new trends that are happening when it comes to the market. So I feel like you need to have a really good balance when it comes to looking at data, but then on top of that, being an innovator, right? Setting a trend, looking at the new trends, and then from there having the ability to learn from that as well.
So I've had I think the epiphany, I just put it into words. I think I've sort of known it at sort of a subconscious or emotional level for quite a long time, but is that service to others is the best path to purpose, contentment, happiness. Maybe talk a little bit about how you view that, and maybe the Wake Up Tour and some of the other philanthropy that you're doing. Because I think people really, and I think you're exactly right. I think that those people that do, that really have that, huge financial success, but maybe don't really have that purpose, that service to others, really struggle. And I think the people that do don't struggle nearly as much.
Yeah, I just feel like the more people that you're able to serve, the better your life is going to be, the more complete your life is going to be. Honestly, to be very, very frank, if I know people they charge for anything. I know entrepreneurs, they charge for an hour of their time, right? Which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, it's like the more people that I'm able to help, forget about the money. Again, money to me, I wouldn't say that it's irrelevant at this point, but I'll say that money doesn't drive me anymore.
Right.
Because I know what it is to have money, be sad and depressed, have everything in the world, have the opportunity to go to a dealership and buy any car and still feel empty. I know what that is, right? I also know what it is to serve people from your heart and be complete after that 1 hour call, after a workshop. I do a lot of workshops. I teach a lot of people when it comes to the system, when it comes to credit, business funding, entrepreneurship, the more that I'm able to put out there and the more that I can help out families that are currently struggling, or I can help that one person as part of that family that wants to become the one that takes their family to the next level, I think there's no figure amount that will make me feel a lot better than that. It's such a fulfillment that I get in my heart. I sleep at night very, very well, knowing that I'm serving people, that I'm changing people's mindsets, that I'm helping people understand the system that we live in. And the wake-up call it's all about that. So we're going to have one tour this year, and we're thinking about doing New York, Miami, and Dallas. And the whole scope behind that is that not too many people really understand how the banking system works. Not too many people understand how credit works, and credit really defines the car you drive, where you live, things like that. Not too many people understand that the money that you're putting into a bank, the bank is using that to expand their money. So why aren't you doing the same thing with your money?
Right.
Why aren't you becoming and learning more and obtaining more skill sets to expand your own wealth when you can actually do it for yourself?
It amazes me. These two friends of mine, like I said, they made 8 and 9 figures. They have absolutely no money in crypto, which I have begged them to do. I'm like, are you insane?
Right.
Like, you think your money in a bank is safe?
Right.
The money I have in my Wells Fargo account terrifies me. The money I have in my hardware wallet, where I control my seed phrase, I feel very comfortable.
Feel great. Yeah.
Very comfortable about that. I could send that money anywhere in the world in 5 minutes. I just made an investment today. Nice. Cost me 30 cents to send my Bitcoin.
Look at that. Look at that. But if you go to a bank, they're going to have to call you. Hey, listen, David, what was this for? Do you know the person? How did you get the information? What are you investing in?
Right.
Right. So you got to call that central authority, which is the bank. And most people don't understand how our system revolves around the bank. Right. So I feel like the more people that I'm able to help, not just from a financial standpoint, but even them understanding the power of the mind and what they could do with the mind and what they can do if they really double down into themselves, I feel like we could change the world.
Hey, if you want another set of hands to help you with this tour, I'd be more than happy to do it. I'd be thrilled to do it.
Please,
honestly, it's amazing to me how little people understand about the financial systems, and it's crazy. And not only that, I think about all the stuff, all the classes I took in high school, like, what the hell am I going to do with trigonometry? How about teach me about finance? How about teach me about capital markets? How about teach me about philosophy?
Yeah.
You know, things I might actually be able to use.
Yeah. Or even just credit. How do you build your credit profile? So now you can go to the bank and say, hey, listen, I've been giving you guys money for the last 5 years. I got my credit profile. I've been able to build my credit. I've been able to pay all these different credit cards. Now give me a 50K loan or a 100K loan. Now I take that 50K, 100K loan and I find ways to create businesses that now I can expand my own money. Now, next thing you know, I have my own empire.
Right.
Right. So those are the things that I feel like it's lacking in our society. Instead of creating producers, the system wants you to be a consumer every single day.
That's right.
Right. So I think waking people up to that. I mean, I even right now, I feel very, very happy even talking about this right now, but I am very, very passionate about that because I truly believe that if we are able to plant that seed, it will change a lot of people's lives.
I'm sure you have had a lot throughout your life, but what's the best compliment you ever got?
Wow. That's a great question. Wow. That's a really good question. That's a really good question. The best compliment I've ever gotten. Honestly, I would say it would have to be my Level Up community. They tell me all the time, listen, you are God's child. You are a public servant. And that to me it is profound. Because, you know, coming from Harlem, Washington Heights, I remember being a 12-year-old kid and doing push-ups at 4:00 in the morning, just trying to become stronger. I remember going to the library during the weekends trying to learn. I remember walking from 160th all the way to 79th Street at 12 because I didn't have my work permit, going business to business, asking for a job so that I can make an extra $200 a week so that I can give it back to my mother. Right. So I remember those days, and to now have the opportunity where I can serve other people, knowing where I come from and all that I had to go through to get to where I'm at. There's nothing better than that. So to me, being called or being considered or being seen as a public servant, I think that's definitely the highest compliment.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Biggest mistake you ever made and what you learned from it?
Biggest mistake I've ever made. Wow. I don't think I've made a mistake. Even really? The things, I mean, I've definitely made mistakes, but I don't treat them as mistakes.
Okay.
I feel like everything was...
You win or you learn?
You win or you learn, right? Or you lose and you learn. You know, I feel like I've taken lots of L's when it comes to business. trusting people, which can be a good and a bad thing. I've definitely had my own sets of challenges when it comes to working with people. For example, a trucking company. Trucking company, I went ahead, bought the truck with a business line of credit. See how we're able to go from credit to business funding and now creating a trucking company. The problem was that I had the wrong people involved. Having the wrong people involved led me to taking a $70K loss. Was it a mistake, me trusting people? 1,000%. But if I didn't go through that, now I would not know to do better. Now, when I collaborate with people, I want to know exactly who you are and whether or not we can actually work together. Not every single partner is going to be a good partner, you know? So that's definitely something that I definitely learned in the last 18 months. I've taken a lot of L's there.
It was funny. I was doing a podcast with someone, and they were, because I talk about reframing things all the time. And she was saying, well, what about, you know, I forget the term she used. I don't know if she's called it an injury or something like that. And I just said, there's nothing that's happened to me in my life that I frame as an injury. I don't choose to ever, like, a victim stance has no value. Right. So why would I choose a stance that doesn't serve me? And I don't even think it's true. Like you said, you know, it's like, I talk about this all the time, which is every good quality I have, I can trace back to something bad that happened. Right. I can't trace any of my good qualities to something good that happened. Right. None. So it's like, in fact, you know, being a new parent, I can tell you that the single hardest thing as a parent is how much suffering do you allow your child to endure? Because your knee jerk is that you want it to be zero, and that's a mistake. Right. You don't want your kid to have zero suffering because they're not going to build any character. And so that's why I think sports can be a really useful tool, because that's a constructive way for them to have suffering, if you will. Right. When I was a wrestler and cutting weight all the time, you suffer a lot. Yeah. But, you know, but ultimately it's still constructive, you know. Right. I'm not homeless on the, you know, street, not eating. Right. So definitely. Do you feel, you know the term imposter syndrome? Yeah. Did you feel like you suffered from that ever?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. When I got out of college at 20 and I had the means to get my own condo out of Charlotte, I swear to everything. I swear to everything I love. I used to go in there and I used to tell myself, it felt like a hotel, like I had a checkout date, because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that now I live in such a nice place, you know, and that all comes from my, you know, my background. But I feel like those are limitations that the system puts on you, and you have to work on those limitations. You really have to rewire your mind and your subconscious mind to eliminate all those limitations. And most people have a tough time doing that. Why? Because when the neuroplasticity comes in, that change, most people go back and they listen to that inner voice that sounds familiar, instead of pushing. So one thing that I do every single day, I rewire my mind to believe that I am worthy, I deserve these things, I've worked for these things, and that and that all is possible at the end of the day. So yeah, for sure, I still suffer from it every single day. I wake up every day and I see the things that I have now, and I'm like, wow, I still can't believe it, right? So I feel like it's a process, to be honest.
Well, I do. Earlier in my life, I suffered from it badly. Now, I have reframed imposter syndrome as a positive, because I feel like if you don't feel like you're a little bit over your skis, then maybe you're not pushing hard enough. And you know what I'm saying? And I think you can feel it. You know what it is? You can know intellectually you're capable of something, but still feel the imposter syndrome emotionally. And I think that's actually a healthy place to be.
100%. And it all goes back to having deep belief. A lot of people have what I call spiritual bankruptcy. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that it's capable. They don't think that they can actually get it done, right? But I feel like if you really have that deep belief in yourself and in God, that you can actually get these things done and that you deserve them, right? It will, in a matter of time, it's going to come your way.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier about, you said you were, you know, financially doing really well, but you felt empty inside. Yeah. What was it that caused you to feel that way? And what caused you, and what got you out of that?
Great question. Being out here in Miami, most of my family is in New York City. Actually, my core family is in the Dominican Republic. Right. So imagine now having several cars. You live in a nice home. You could do whatever you want. You have the money to do whatever you want. You could wake up in Japan if you want to tomorrow, but you don't have your family. You don't have the thing that you've worked with for since you were 12. You're not with them. And that 2024, to be very, very frank, it got me to a very dark place. I felt empty. And no matter the wins, and I would tell my friends, like, yeah, we made 20K today, 30K today. And I would tell them it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And most people don't understand that if you are not whole, the success is not going to mean anything. The money is not going to mean anything. And it got to that point where I was like, wow, I have all these things. I feel bad because someone would die to be in my position, right? But I wasn't tapped in with myself, to my inner being and who I truly am. And that's what led me to go down that rabbit hole. And I felt so dark, so empty, so depressed, so sad. I still had a smile on my face. I still, I still inspired people. I still empowered people. I was still very happy and joy. But when I got home at the end of the night, that's when you really have that true conversation with yourself.
So how did you get out of that?
Going to New York City every single week.
Okay.
Yeah, and seeing my family, being with my family, connecting with people that I had years that I didn't connect with. I mean, think about so many of my friends, jail, shot, got killed, and I was just away from home. I was working, I was building, I sacrificed so much to be where I'm at, but I've lost touch with my core family, and that's definitely something that I am for sure going to work on in 2025, is to have my family around, to have my son around, and really create a beautiful life, because we all deserve it.
Well, talk about health and fitness, because that's the other thing I see a lot too is, I mean, you're clearly a fit guy, but, I see it a lot in people that are successful, substance abuse issues, physically, not in a good place, even people that are relatively young, and you can get away with it for a while when you're in your 20s and 30s and maybe even into your early 40s, but that eventually catches up with you. How do you keep yourself grounded there? Do you drink it all, or no?
I keep the drinking very, very light. I've never been a drinker, to be very, very honest. Even in college, even in high school, everybody was drinking, everybody was smoking weed. I was like, nope, that's not me. I know exactly who I am. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I'm pro fitness. I'm pro health. Coming from a family where my grandparents had diabetes. I mean, my grandma, they amputated her leg because she had diabetes. Wow. Right. And I used to take care of her at the age of 12. I used to cook for her at the age of 12, because the home attendant, we didn't have the healthcare to have a home attendant at home. Right. So me seeing that, I told myself, I'm going to become the person that my family has never seen. Fit, financially well, a leader, a good speaker. I mean, just what my family couldn't ever imagine. I'm going to become that person, right? So to me, fitness is everything. I work out almost every single day, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I weight train. I do rings now, gymnastic rings, which is probably the best thing. If anybody wants to become super, super ripped and in shape, do gymnastic rings. There's nothing like it. Calisthenics. I'm running. Matter of fact, after this podcast, I'm going to go out for a 6-mile run to celebrate this amazing podcast interview that we just did today. And it keeps me grounded. Honestly, I feel like as long as I am able to have some sort of solitude and I'm able to work out, there's nothing in this world that I can get. To me, the gym and fitness is my sanctuary. When I was back home as a 12, 13-year-old evading, different gangs, I used to go to the baseball field and work out, and that was my sanctuary. I treat it as a way that it really elevates my life and keeps me grounded every single day. When I train super, super hard and I go to the extreme, which barely few people try to go to the extreme, you get to know yourself and what you're capable of and the fire that you have inside of you. And then from there, that fire, you're going to give it to other people and magic to other people as well.
Talk a little bit about your faith.
Oh, I have deep belief. Deep belief. My mom.
Were you born with that? Were you raised that way, or did you come to it later?
Yeah, I was raised that way. Okay. My mom has deep belief. She would always tell me and my brother and my cousins, listen, if you have deep belief in yourself and you have deep belief in God, everything will come to fruition. So I feel like I'm a God-fearing man. I'm becoming better every single day. Do I go to church? No, I don't go to church. I feel like faith is within me. I don't have to go to church to say that I'm a faithful person, right? So I feel like that's one of the best things that I currently have at the moment, is that I have deep belief in myself. And as long as you have deep belief in yourself, there's nothing that you can actually do. Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right, right? And I feel like oftentimes what people lack is the faith in themselves, for sure.
So does God have a plan for you, or does Cris have a plan for Cris?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I feel like my life was written. It's to the point that when I write out my goals and what I want to do for the year, I honestly expect them to happen. That's how much belief I have. And I feel like everything that I've gone through was for me to become the person that I am. And I feel like my purpose is to become so that I can then empower other people to become as well and to achieve more as well. That's my main purpose. I live by that every single day. And all I want to do is become a role model for those youngins, the youth that they know that they are in dire need of becoming better and seeing better in their family. For example, I went to Guttman, which is more uptown, is a bit more up north in New York City, and I went to speak to early college prep school, and just me being there, speaking to the youth, seeing the hunger that they had in their eyes. There's nothing more that really satisfies me, and that keeps me going. Even the days that I don't want to get up and hit the gym, and maybe I don't feel like doing certain things, I just know that there's a group of young kids that are looking up to me because they message me every single day.
Right.
Chris, how do we do this? Post more day in the life. I am empowering so many different people that I feel like I can truly change the world.
So one of the last topics I wanted to cover was relationships. So you have a new son.
Yes.
Wife, girlfriend?
No, so I'm no longer together with the mother of my child.
Okay.
So that's something else. I'll be very, very transparent in 2024. That kind of, it put me in that dark spot.
Sure.
And that was another reason why I was empty, because I'm like, wow, I've worked so hard, since I've been since 12 years old, with the mindset and the intention of my son. Like, honestly, my whole life, I've told myself, I'm doing this because when I'm 30, 28, 29, whenever that time comes, I'm going to have a son or a daughter, but preferably I want a son. God gave me a son, thank the Lord. And
I'm thinking of The Godfather and have a masculine child.
Yeah. And one day he's going to look at me and he's going to say, wow, this is my father. My father was able to do these things. And I want to be able to become, not just when it comes to the financial success, but I want to be able to become the person that can really guide him through life. So that's where I'm at right now when it comes to fatherhood.
Well, so not talking about the mother of your son, but just how you think. Because one of the things I find interesting is I have seen that perhaps the biggest blind spot most financially successful men have is in their romantic relationships, like by a good distance. Like if that's the biggest blind spot,
Yep.
and then the next one's probably a distant second.
Yeah.
How do you think about how important that choice is for a man, and how you think about making that choice?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of sacrifice. When you're building as a male figure and you're building for the family, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot. Those relationships are gonna take a beating for sure, right? Because you're always traveling, you're always working. You don't have the dedicated time to pour it into a relationship, right? To be honest, I feel like that was the hardest thing for me. I didn't really have the time to really pour in 100% into that because I was always building, right? And yeah.
Well, even like trying to find someone who, and again, when I was younger, maybe closer to your age, I was worried that, well, gee, if I meet someone after I'm really successful, well, how am I ever going to know if they really want me for me?
Yeah.
And and so then, but if I don't do it before I'm successful, if I do it after I'm successful, well, then I'll never really know. And so how do you think about that? Or do you like, what, I'll worry about that later?
No, you need somebody that truly believes in you. You need somebody that see eye to eye with you. You need a partner, a true partner, somebody that's going to truly, truly work together to build something. I feel like if you don't have that frequency and that synergy in the relationship to really build,
right,
and that's not a common goal, it's not going to work out.
Right.
You need someone that doubles down, someone that pours, and both parties are helping each other to elevate each other, right? And not just when it comes to goals, but even when it comes to just the nature of the relationship, right? How do we create a stronger bond? How do we become more intimate? How do we get to know each other more, right? So things like that, I feel like if that's not there, it's just not going to work out.
Like having been married twice, and after I got married the first time, swore I would never, ever, 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 ever get married again, and then I did. I have some deep thoughts about this topic.
Yeah.
I do think that I really do, like I had said earlier, I think the problem with almost all romantic relationships, you could argue with all relationships, period, is people aren't honest about what they want. They're not really honest with what they want, but on both sides, because again, they're afraid that, what they want won't be a good match for the other person. And if they've decided they want to be with that person, then they're going to tell them what they want to hear. And that just never works out particularly well.
And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Everybody wants to seem perfect. Everybody wants to paint that perfect picture. And that's something else too about relationships that 2024, that, I mean, I had such a very dark time, but such an incredible time. It sounds crazy what I'm going to say, but when you're going through those stages where you're at a low, you have to fall in love with it because you truly get to know who you are and you truly get to ground yourself. And I feel like 2024, the business, everything was soaring, but just that part of my life was very, very poor. But I was able to really ground myself and really understand who is Christopher Munoz, right? And I truly believe that in a relationship, most people are trying to satisfy the picture. They're trying to paint the picture for the external, the outsiders, without really taking into account both of them, right? That bond, there's no working, right? There's no development when it comes to that. So I feel like if that's not something that people are working, it's just not going to work. Don't try to satisfy other people. Don't try to satisfy Instagram. Don't try to satisfy even that person's parents. Focus on you too. And as long as you two get along and you guys are working every single day, things will definitely flourish.
Yeah. One of the other things that I really focus my energy on in my romantic relationship, it's less important, less true now because we got to a place where we are literally kindly but brutally honest about literally everything, is making it really safe for the other person to be honest. It's like people, I do think women are a little bit worse about this than men, if I'm being honest, is you don't want to hear the person say a certain thing. So you set it up in a certain way that you make it really uncomfortable for someone to be honest. You need to do the opposite. You need to make it really comfortable for them to be honest, because once you're in a place of truth, you can make decisions. Right. And if you make decisions on the wrong information, it ain't going to work well.
100%. And I also feel like when you walk out that door every single day, you're going against the whole world. Right. So you're facing a war every single day when you go outside the door. Yeah. You don't want to come home and have another war. Right. But it should be a sanctuary. It should be a place where you feel safe to be yourself, to speak the truth, to be brutally honest with that person. Right. And that's the best relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah. I remember, honestly, my wife now is the only person I've ever been with that never busts my balls about anything ever. Like if I'm saying I was going to be home at 7, I come home at 9, she's not busting my balls. She's like, can I Uber Eats you? You want me to bring some food by? Like, I'm sorry you're having to work so late.
Amazing.
To give us a great lifestyle, as opposed to the opposite. And it's like, what are you doing? Like you said, you don't want to come home to chaos.
You don't.
You want to come home to calm. You want to come home to nurturing and empathy.
And I've been in those rooms where very successful men are getting ringed up by their wife. Where are you? And these guys are working very, very hard, and they're working to amass wealth and create generational wealth. And I feel like if you don't have that type of understanding and support, it's just not going to work out.
By the way, one of the things I'm doing with drinking, so I didn't drink for 8 months. So I didn't drink till I was 35, like 0. And then I like 8 months to get myself back in really good shape. So I didn't drink it at all for 8 months. And then I decided in 2025, I'm trying something new where I'm going to drink 6 days a year. So 1 day every other month at most. And now I'm using it as currency. Nice. So I got a good friend of mine that was going through something professionally, and he brought over a bottle of champagne, and we were just sitting down and just had a few glasses of champagne. I didn't get drunk or anything, but it's like, he knew I was using one of my 6 days. And so it was like, and that way, because, if you say, I don't drink much, you'll get pressure. If you say I don't drink ever, they might think you're an alcoholic. Right. So I'm trying a 6 days a year thing. I'll see how it works.
That's amazing. That's good. That's
so just wrapping up here, you're a lifelong learner. For clearly that's obvious. That's obvious to anyone who's paying attention. Are there, 2 or 3 books, 2 or 3 podcasts that you'd recommend to people that are wanting to be successful, not just in business, but in life, that you might recommend or that are important to you?
Yeah. So books, I'll definitely say Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. You can really understand exactly how with your mind, you can really create your reality, and you could do lots of great things with your mind. You can even cure illnesses with your mind. That's number 1. I would say You're the Placebo, Joe Dispenza, one more time, because again, our mind is the placebo more than oftentimes, and it's what keeps us from going to higher places and becoming that person that we want to become. And then I would say The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. Robin Sharma, that's actually one of my mentors that I've had for a couple of years now. And I got into the routine of waking up early. Again, I used to be one of those folks that would say, I'm not meant genetically to wake up early.
Right.
Most people say that, right?
Yeah,
and that's a complete lie. It's,
It's
that
a
you don't
choice.
right. It's a choice, right? So once I started to have that early morning routine, early to bed, early to rise, that completely changed my life. I have a lot more time to do more things. My productivity has gone up. So definitely those 3 books are definitely the ones that took me to the next level.
Podcasts?
Podcasts.
Besides mine, of course. I'm kidding.
No, this one for sure. For sure, 1000%. I would say podcasts. I'll say Jay Shetty. Jay
Okay.
Shetty. Yeah, he brings some really good guests.
Mhm.
I believe he just had Big Sean, who was speaking about how he was able to manifest his reality.
Right.
I would also say Jordan Peterson. I like Jordan Peterson a lot. He talks about becoming dangerous. You have to become dangerous
Yeah,
in
I
life,
like that.
and then lightly using whenever you actually need it. I will also say not a podcast, but somebody else that I really listen to is Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, in my opinion, is a great leader.
He really is. I've just been seeing some of his content lately,
Yeah.
and I'm into neurolinguistic programming, which is a lot of the stuff that he started with, and so there's a lot of real value there. And he could be a little corny, but I think there's a lot of good there.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. Last 2 questions. Go back in a time machine, say 10 years.
Yes.
What 2 or 3 pieces of advice would you give the 20-year-old version of yourself?
Wow. Kill the ego. 1000%. Kill the ego. You're not perfect. You don't know it all. Right? Submit to the process. That's number 2. Submit to the process and fall in love with the process. People think that once you get the prize, you're going to feel happy.
Right.
The day in, day out, those repetitions, I'm telling you, I never feel more alive than when I'm going through the process. When I work out, when I wake up every single day early in the morning, I hit the gym, when I'm killing the meetings, when I'm doing business plans, when I'm whiteboarding at home at 2:00 in the morning on a Friday night, I never feel more alive than that. So definitely enjoy the process. And then number 3, I would say, create your life. Don't let life happen to you. It's your life. You have the opportunity to create life every single day. If you want to get up and go to the beach at 5:00 in the morning and catch the sunrise and then go to work, you can do that. We don't choose to. And then I would also say that happiness is a choice. So you have to make that choice every single day if you want to be happy in life.
Those are great. Really, really wonderful. All right. Last question. So 30 years from now, you're 60, your son is 30.
Wow.
What would you want him to say about you?
Wow. I would want him to say that it was all worth it. That the hardships, the tough times, the hard work, the grit that I put in every single day, that it was worth it, and that my guidance and my wisdom allowed him to be better than who I am.
Well, that'd be terrific. Cris, where can people find you and everything you have to give to this world?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And again, it's a great honor. David, thank you so much for having me part of your podcast. This is a beautiful podcast. You're a beautiful soul. I've told you this since day one. I could feel it in my heart as well. And again, we all value who you are. Your team values you. I was able to witness that myself, and Rogers was there too. And it was so great to be part of that room. You can find me at official Cris Munoz on Instagram, and then levelupenterprises.com for all of the businesses.
Cris, I can't thank you enough. You just really helped me create some wonderful content today that I know people are going to find really valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you again for sharing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Yep.